Okay. Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Good evening. I'm WSA 9 meteorologist Topper Schutt. Thanks for joining us on whatever platform you're watching. We're going to try to break down this storm, and it is kind of complicated. It's not a pure snow, which is kind of unfortunate. That would make our job much easier. It's going to be everything. Rain, heavy rain, sleet, snow, and some heavy snow. So first things first, we'll talk about what we're thinking in terms of accumulation. A trace to an inch D.C. south and east, maybe as far south as Charles County. And that's going to be early on. Once you folks kick to rain, game over. That's it. 1 to 3 inches, extreme northwest D.C., past the spur, maybe up to Rockville, Fairfax, Chantilly, that area. 3 to 6 as you go up toward Leesburg and Gaithersburg, and then just west of Route 15, as much as 6 to 12. And I got to tell you, I'm not sold on the bands up from Frederick. We may have to make these a little bit less. Warm air is going to get pretty far north, and by that we mean warm air in the upper levels of the atmosphere, because the storm is tracking a little too close to us. It's tracking essentially almost up parts of the bay down toward the Delmarva, as opposed to offshore. If it were offshore, or if the high pressure were a little bit further south, it would be a pure snow. But again, what's going to happen, we get this burst of snow in the late morning, early afternoon. Again, once you change over in places like Bowie and Annapolis, you're pretty much done. Could it end with snow flurries? Yes, but in terms of accumulation, you're going to have to get what you accumulate on the front end of the storm. So this is why it's so complicated. All rain, southern Maryland. Snow to rain, just north of that. Snow mixed to rain north of that, and as far north as Leesburg and Gaithersburg. And even in the orange here, you know, we have still a snow-sleet mix. That also will cut down snow amounts. Even if it's still frozen in the form of sleet, it's not a pure snow there either. Pure snow essentially west of I-81. And that you folks will get hammered in Cumberland. And good news for the ski resorts, actually, across the board. So these are the latest advisories. These are in purple, rather. And those are the winter weather advisories. In white is a winter storm warning. In addition to that, and these were just added a little while ago, so now we had flood watches east of town, east of 95, but now we have flood watches for lower Montgomery County, all of Fairfax County, all of Prince William County, and then points south and east, which were the same, over to the bay. So it's going to have the possibility of flooding. Roads are going to be a mess. Visibility is going to be restricted. Even in heavy rain, it's going to be hard to drive. And then we have heavy snow. And it will be a fairly wet snow. If we get as much as 12 inches in some of the mountainous areas, we could see some power outages, no doubt. So it's a big nor'easter, but it's just not quite classic. It's not far off, but it's not quite, well, I shouldn't say that. The setup's pretty close to classic. It just needs a couple alterations. All right, well, we brought out the breadometer, and this is a tough one because, you know, in Hagerstown, it's going to be a 7. In D.C., it's going to be a 0 to 1. So we'll kind of split the difference, and we'll say 3 on the breadometer across the board if I had to average it out. And I think, you know, a lot of folks north and west of town will see plowable and sleddable conditions. Get out there early, though, if you want to sled. Don't wait around. Once it's covered, go sled, because rain will kick in or sleet will kick in and make it slower. Now, that's a breadometer. That's kind of its place in meteorological history. Now we'll talk about the impact. And I'll tell you what, this is a big storm. So impact-wise, this is going to be a 7, because we've got the potential for heavy snow, heavy rain, and flooding. So yeah, and some fairly strong winds. Even in town, winds could gust to 30. So if you could still see some power outages here in town, but also, especially in the mountains with the heavy wet snow. So here's what we're thinking. Snow and sleet develop before noon, essentially around the district, around the Beltway and points north and west. Rain south and east, but it becomes heavy very, very quickly. Heaviest, snow and sleet and rain will be noon to midnight. Best to be off the roads. It really is. Even if it's just rain, it's not going to be any fun on the roads. And then heaviest snow in the mountains, primarily west of I-81. Major roads, just wet inside the Beltway. But initially, you know, late morning, early afternoon, some of the secondary roads as close in as Rockville and Fairfax, and maybe even, even closer than Fairfax, maybe Great Falls, could have potentially some slick secondary roads. I think the roads that are treated are going to be just fine in the immediate metro area. You have to go out pretty far north and west to find snow coming down at, like, big time 1 to 2 inches per hour. All right, so we showed you the map. I'm going to show you individual models for individual cities. All right, so these are all the models for DC. I mean, you look at that and you're like, okay, pretty good, agreement there, around an inch. And we think it's going to be an inch or less in DC proper. Frederick, okay, models as low as 7, as high as 12. And again, I'm kind of favoring the lower models because of the intrusion of warm air. So that would cut it down a lot. Leesburg, same thing. 4 inches to 8 inches, you're going to be right on the border of a really, really good snow or like a okay snow. I mean, for the first snow, this is pretty good. Right out of the gates, it's not so bad. Hagerstown. Okay, look at the range on this. 6.7 to 18 inches. When you see a model that far ahead, you got to think one of two things. It's an outlier, or it's starting a trend that the others will follow. Right now, I think it's an outlier. I don't see 18 inches in Hagerstown. Is it possible? Yes, but more likely around 12 inches. And we have you in the 6 to 12 plus span. More than 12, yes. So here are some models. So this is the GFS. There's your 1 inch here. There's your heavier bands up toward Frederick, out toward Leesburg. You've got kind of the same problem along the I-95 corridor. There's a little more cold air available once you get to New York City, but even along Long Island, you could be some mixing and cut down some of the amount. So, 5.9 in Philly, but 11.4 in New York. Look at Scranton, 22 inches. Not so sure that's going to happen. We will see. Okay, here's another one. So again, this is the RPM, a local model. 1 inch for, DC, maybe 3 for Gaithersburg, and I kind of like these amounts. 5 for Leesburg, that's kind of where we have you, there are 3 to 6. 7 for Hagerstown. What I don't like is a little low, I think, along I-81. I mean, this is really bringing some warm air pretty far north and west and keeping the big numbers out toward Cumberland, Oakland, and Romney. Still a pretty good storm along I-81, don't get me wrong. Now, the NAM. Okay, there's that crazy number for Hagerstown. That was the NAM. But only 1.9 for DC, 3 to 4 in Gaithersburg. I kind of see that. I think the numbers may just be a little bit high, but the bands themselves, I kind of like. I mean, all the bands are pretty close. Notice it's a very short distance between not much snow and a lot of snow. That's just, welcome to DC. All right, this is the European model. Pretty high in Hagerstown, 14. Almost 5 in Gaithersburg, 1.8 in DC. And really, it's all about how long the cold air lasts and can hang in. And if this system tracks. Now remember, it's a system that's going to come in from the west and die out in the Tennessee Valley. Secondary low pressure system develops off the coast, and then that moves up the coast. That develops 50 miles further east, then we can bring some of these heavier bands back toward 95, which is what it looked like over the weekend. I was talking to Mary and Chester over the weekend, and boy, I tell you, a lot of the models had a pure snow, DC included, west. Now with this thing tracking a little closer to the shore, it's going to bring a little nose of warm air in here, and that's going to be the reason why we don't have a pure snow. Here's where it is now. This is the storm number 1. Doesn't look that impressive, right? And this is going to just kind of move into the Tennessee Valley and die. Then another one will reform the Gulf and move quickly up the coast. A couple things about this storm. It's not going to go what we call negative, which means it's going to be progressive. It's going to go pretty fast. It's not going to slow and just really hammer us. Has a lot of moisture to work with, though, that's for sure. And there's the track. See it kind of just clipping Assateague? If this track were more like Hatteras and up, probably be all snow for us. Or we have a huge high pressure to the north. If this were just a little further south, it's up in Quebec. If it were like in Albany or maybe maybe even Vermont, I think we'd have enough cold air for most of it to be in the form of snow or sleet. All right, so I'll take you through. This is 9 o'clock on Wednesday. We still are dry. Cold, 28 in Leesburg, 34 in D.C. But there's the snow and sleet down toward Charlottesville. Look what happens between 9 a.m., ready for this, and 11:30. In just 2 hours, pretty good bands of snow develop along 95 and west. Yeah, you might see a little in Prince George's County around Bowie. You might see a little in Annapolis, and this is the time to make hay, because once this kicks to rain, and it will in about an hour and a half, that's it for you. So with temperatures, 29 in Leesburg and 32 in Frederick, again, secondary roads will get slippery. I think treated roads will be fine, and I think inside the Beltway, you'll be fine on the interstates, the Beltway. By 3 o'clock, look what happens. Now we have rain. Green is just flat out rain, almost to the spur. That's what I mean. So you get your snow in Prince George's County, and once it kicks, that's it. Look at the yellows and the oranges. That's heavy rain. That's why we have a flood watch in effect. But even at 3 o'clock, we still have snow, pretty good snow in Leesburg, pretty good snow in Frederick, and a pure snow so far. But by 6 p.m., look at this. It really begins to mix. And Leesburg gets up to 33 and 34 in Frederick. That's why we are not going for gangbuster amounts. It would be much easier if it were a pure snow, but the sleet's going to cut down the amounts. The rain's going to get pretty close. We've got the heavy rain south and east of town. That's 6 o'clock. Notice still pure snow in Hagerstown and Martinsburg and essentially Winchester, kind of on the fence there. By 8:30, storm begins to pull away. You can see the storm kind of being right here where the arrows are. If this storm were literally just 50 miles east, we would have a much better snow, especially I-95 west. So even so, by 8:30, it starts to get very close to our parallel. A little cold air begins to move back around it, so it goes back to a mix. Temperature still above freezing, though, and this is critical. 33 in Leesburg, 34 in Gaithersburg. By midnight, we could see a return of one last gasp of some snow, but I just think this is overdone. We always look at the models. They always say, oh, wrap around. Once the storm gets past you, it'll give you a little wrap around. And that rarely happens when we have northwest winds, and winds are turning northwest here. But notice the temps. By midnight, 30 in Leesburg, 30 in Frederick. There will be some slick spots Thursday morning. Just be careful walking on sidewalks, even on your driveway. By 2:30, snow beginning to pull out. It's gone south of D.C. Temps, again, still around 30 or so. And then by the time we get to 5:30 in the morning, partly cloudy skies and temps upper 30s. Even downtown's hovering around freezing. So, and then 11:30 on Thursday morning, some clouds and temps primarily in the 30s. So tonight, colder, increasing cloudiness, 25 to 33. Most folks get below freezing. Winds northeasterly at 10 as that high pressure builds in from the north. I don't know why it's keep doing that, but it's just cloudy. You can kind of see the cloud here. At 9 o'clock, just cloudy. Some snow at noon, but then snow in a mix north and west, but rain D.C. south and east. So again, D.C., you'll probably have a quick burst of snow, 11 a.m., 12 p.m., maybe to 12:30, 1 o'clock. So obviously, yellow weather alert for Wednesday, low 40s on Thursday, cold, a lot of clouds on Thursday, and then cold on Friday. We'll say partly cloudy, low 40s. The weekend pretty quiet, upper 40s Saturday. Weak little system moving through late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Maybe some flurries on Sunday. Then not bad. I mean, Monday's near 50 and Tuesday's near 40 with sunshine. So that's pretty good. Okay, so we want your questions. What I'd like you to do tomorrow, if you're watching, if you get up at a reasonable hour, before 9 or 10 o'clock, it won't be snowing or sleeting. Take a picture, nice picture of your yard or something, or your street. And then that's a before picture. And then when it snows or sleets, take another picture and send it to us. Hashtag WSA9 weather. Okay? And send it to at WSA9.com. That'd be great. Okay, I'm ready for questions. Okay, so some questions for Fairfax and Alexandria. This is Fairfax here. Fairfax, the county, is going to have a wide range. It's kind of like Montgomery County. Sometimes you have this wide range. Parts of Fairfax down by the river, almost nothing. And then as you get northern Fairfax, you could see 1 to 3 inches. But if you're like an Old Town, I think it's going to be disappointing. I think you're going to see some flakes for maybe an hour, hour and a half, but I don't think you're going to see any more than a trace to an inch around D.C. and Old Town. Okay, Loudoun County, also tricky. If you look carefully at Loudoun County, this is the Loudoun County-Fairfax line, and that's the West Virginia line. We have not one, not two, but we have 3 bands in Loudoun County. So, you start on Route 7 and you're going to get, okay, 1 to 3 inches around Great Falls, Drainesville. Then you go a little further out toward Leesburg. Now you get in the 3 to 6 band. And then you go over west of 15, Snickers Gap and that area as it butts up against West Virginia, and you could see 6 to 12. And right now I'm thinking closer to 6 to 8 than 12, but you're in that 6 to 12 band. And we had to limit the number of bands, so. Prince George's County, again, if you're in Bowie, you get some pretty good snow by 11:30, but it kicks to rain around 1. So we have you essentially all of Prince George's County in the trace to 1. We have a little sliver of upper Prince George's County, kind of up near Laurel, where you could get 1 to 3 inches. Could get 1 to 3 inches. Good questions. Good questions. Okay, the question is there a chance the track could change where we get more snow and all snow north and west? There's a chance, and I'm hoping for one. But, I would think by the time we get to tonight, 11 o'clock, we'll have another run-in. That's going to be a pretty firm forecast. I don't see that changing that much tomorrow. I mean, it could. We'll get another run-in tomorrow morning early. We get 2 more, one overnight and one early. So it could change, yes, because it's still kind of in its formative stages. But, we'll see. Wind potential for this storm. There is a gale warning in effect and a small craft advisory for parts of the bay on Wednesday. So winds could gust to 40, and winds could gust 40 to 50 along the Delmarva, the lower Delmarva, say Ocean City southward. So a miserable day at the beach on Wednesday. Montgomery County. We've got Montgomery County here, only in 2 bands. 1 to 3 inches northwest D.C., and then Montgomery County, Bethesda, Rockville, Potomac. You get up toward Gaithersburg and up toward Clarksburg, you're going to get maybe 3 to 6 inches. That's where we have you drawn now, 3 to 6 inches. And we talked about this last week. We've seen this storm now, 6 days in advance? And we started talking about it being, hey, I-95 is going to be kind of critical in terms of the line of demarcation between good snow or the snow-rain line. The models have done a fantastic job. They really have. The problem is now is just in the details. And again, a 10-mile or 20-mile change will shift these bands considerably. The questions about freezing rain and ice threats. We have freezing rain in the forecast. I've not talked about it a lot. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. I really don't. I think it's either going to be snow or sleet and then just over to rain. But it's possible. If it were to occur, it would be out toward the Blue Ridge and out in that area on the east side of I-81. I think that would be the biggest threat for some light icing. But right now, I don't think that's a huge problem. Wow, somebody's moving tomorrow. If they could get everything, if they could be done and be inside by 11, maybe that would work. But you don't want to be moving in the afternoon between heavy rain, heavy snow, and sleet. I don't think you want to be doing that, or having the truck driving around with your stuff. So I don't know how big a move it is. If it's a 1-bedroom or an apartment, you might be able to get that done by noon. If it's a house or a bigger apartment, I would wait. Okay, Allegheny County. So Allegheny County is is up here. Let me go back here for 1 second here. Okay, so here are the maps again. So this is Washington County, where Hagerstown is, and then there's Allegheny County before you go across the divide into Garrett County. And you guys are in the bullseye. I think we got you in the 6 to 12 band. If I had to pick out a number, I'd probably say 8 to 12 plus. For Allegheny County. You guys are in pretty good shape. Wow, possibility of snow in Calvert County. That's a tough one. Very, very slim. Very slim. You might see we have you in a few flakes in northern Calvert County early on, but very, very slim. I'm sorry to say. King George, Virginia, you're all rain. We have you in all rain. And in some cases, heavy rain. So keep that in mind. Flooding is actually possible down there as well. Good questions. Good questions. I'll zoom in on this for a minute. Okay. I do want to go to, this kind of explains how many different areas of precip we have. So we have all rain here. There's that little part of northern Calvert. We have a little bit of snow then in D.C. and around the Beltway. You know, we've got that snow mixed to rain, and we got the snow and sleet front Royal to Frederick to Winchester, including Leesburg, and then mostly snow out toward Cumberland and west of I-81. And that's why it's so tough in terms of deciding snowfall. And sleet is included in snowfall. The trouble is it kind of packs down the snow, so it kind of works against itself in terms of amounts. All right, here are the warnings again. Winter storm warnings are white, and they go upper Montgomery County, all of Loudoun County, and also upper Fauquier County, but then you go east of that for Fairfax, lower Montgomery, and also Prince William. It is a winter weather advisory. And in addition to that, they've expanded the flood watches. So flood watch for all of Fairfax, lower Montgomery, Prince William, and then these counties, our friends in Prince George's County and also down into southern Maryland. You folks were already under the flood watch earlier today. That has not changed right now. So here we go. Breadometer. You know what I'll do? I'm going to hang on one second. I'll be right back. I'm going to show you. I just kind of want to jump ahead to one thing here, and maybe I'll make it a hot button so I can get to it quicker. I think it's really good going through. Now, you have to take this with a grain of salt, but I think it's really good going through the hour by hour. So I think it's helpful. There we go. Okay. Okay. Here it comes. Okay, so here are the snowfall totals again for you. We might update this before 11. It would have to be, I'd have to see some data that really kind of was pretty dramatic because, you know, you can't fiddle with these too much. You kind of just, the law of diminishing returns. We're pretty happy with those. This is only our second call, too, in terms of snowfall amounts. So there you go, you know, trace D.C. south, trace to an inch, 1 to 3, upper northwest. Rockville, Bethesda, 3 to 6, Leesburg, Gaithersburg, and then Frederick, westward 6 to 12. And I'm kind of more like 6 in Frederick and more like 12 in Cumberland. So let's go through hour by hour. This is one of the most important points I think I can make. 9 o'clock in the morning, temps are below or hovering around freezing. There's the snow in Charlottesville. In just 2.5 short hours, it envelops the entire metro area. I mean, it goes all the way up to Baltimore. And if you look carefully, see the different shades of blue. The darker the blue, the heavier snow. It's going to get heavy pretty darn quickly. And roads are not going to be great unless they're an interstate, unless they've been treated. They will get bad pretty quickly. I know that sounds kind of crazy. It hasn't been that cold yet, but these snowfall rates will overcome that quickly. Notice by noon, still snow in D.C., but temps above freezing, but all rain now. Southern Prince George's and into southern Maryland. So there's your snow in Prince George's County. 11, 12, maybe to 1 o'clock, because by 2:30, boom, it is rain, heavy rain in southern Maryland, rain through D.C. You know, that mix is creeping its way northward and westward up toward Frederick and out toward Leesburg. Still snow, all snow along the I-81. And by 5:30, here the mix goes up to Frederick and almost to Hagerstown and goes all the way to West Virginia. This is huge. I mean, if this is the case, we're not going to see that 12-inch mark west of 15. It'll be in the 6 to 12 band. Our bands will be right, but it'll be closer to 6 as opposed to 12. Look at the heavy rain. Look at the reds offshore. I mean, it's just a miserable day at the shore with strong winds and temps, you know, around 50. Now, by 8:30, colder air begins to move in, so now we're back to a mix, but temps are above freezing in most spots. By midnight, this is that last little wraparound that could roll through. Normally, this doesn't amount to anything. We'll see if the only thing that's worrying me about this wraparound is that the storm itself has not passed our parallel. So winds are not due northwest. They're shifting. They're almost north. See how they're kind of like north here and north-northwest there. And it's moving a little slower to the east as opposed to northeast or north. So we could see a brief period of some significant snow between, say, midnight and 2 o'clock if you're around D.C. or north. But our friends in southern Maryland, I don't think are going to see anything out of that band. Any questions? Hagerstown. Well, Hagerstown's pretty much one of our bullseyes. I want to show you a couple things about Hagerstown. Clouds increase tonight, but we're dry. We're okay tomorrow, except snow by noon. You're okay in the morning, and then heavy rain or a mix by 5 o'clock. So yellow weather alert tomorrow, obviously for snow and rain and sleet, and then cold. A lot of clouds on Thursday and cold on Friday. Saturday, we're still kind of cold, maybe a flurry on Sunday, not a huge deal, and then near 50 on Monday and 40 next Tuesday. Okay, so Hagerstown, we have you in the 6 to 12 band. Some models have you in the 18 band. That's a little bit much for me. But I think Hagerstown, I would almost guarantee you 6. I would probably say 50-50 chance of 9, and probably a 30% chance of 12 inches. Yeah. I can. Yes, I can. All right. So here's the hour by hour. This is 9 a.m. on Wednesday. Notice we are still dry, but we are cloudy with snow very close to us down into Charlottesville. And in 2.5 short hours, boom, it envelops the whole metro area. And again, I emphasize, this is the best chance for accumulating snow in D.C., the best and probably only chance for accumulating snow in Prince George's County, because it will kick to rain. And once it kicks to rain, it ain't going back. Ain't going back there. 11:30, there it is. 29 Leesburg, 29 Martinsburg, snow. The darker the blue, heavier snow. So again, secondary roads will deteriorate, and be careful of your sidewalks and your driveway. If you're walking to get the mail or get a package, don't slip and fall, because roads will deteriorate pretty quickly. But by 2:30, boom, now we got all rain in Prince George's County. The mixed rain is all the way to the spur, and the mixed to Gaithersburg and almost to Leesburg, and that's at 2:30. So what's going to happen is our snowfall is going to be, in some instances, whatever we get in, say, an hour, 2 or 3 hour period before this kicks to rain. Not the case out west. You're going to get many more hours of snow, and you should get all snow if you are west of I-81. By 6 o'clock in the evening, though, we've got a mix out 66 all the way to Front Royal, a mix to Frederick, a mix all the way to all of Loudoun County is a mix. A little bit of rain showing up in extreme southern Loudoun County. That's why it's going to be just so tough. By 8:30, a little colder air begins to move in. We got snow returning now back into Winchester, back to Front Royal. And then again, by 12 o'clock, maybe we get this last little burst. I think this is a little too far south, but I could see a pretty good burst, say I-66, Route 50, and north between about midnight and 2:30 in the morning on Thursday. That I think is reasonable. But it's not going to be, one of those bursts that are going to put down, 3-4 inches. Could put down an inch, but I don't think any more than that. By 3 o'clock, it's pretty much done. Exiting Montgomery County and Prince George's County, and nothing going on down to the south. And then by morning, temperatures upper 20s. So there'll be some slick spots Thursday morning. Not so much downtown, and again, not so much with the treated roads, but the secondary roads, your sidewalks, your driveways, they will be slippery. So be careful if you are getting packages. All right, so let me go back to the 7-day here, and then I'm going to go to the snow maps again. I want to show you the individual cities, too, if I could. So upper 30s on Wednesday, snow, heavy snow, sleet, and rain. Clouds on Thursday, just cold on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, pretty quiet. Again, some flurries possible Sunday. And then near 50 on Monday, and then 40 on Thursday. So here's the snowfall map. And if you're not good at reading this, no worries. My daughter asked me how to read this, and she's really bright. So Trace to an inch, DC south, 1 to 3 toward the spur, Fairfax, Bethesda, 3 to 6 Gaithersburg, Leesburg, and then 6 to 12 north and west of that. So I'm going to show you individual cities in a minute. And again, this is the reason why we have all these mixes. Rain, a little bit of snow to rain, snow mixed to rain, snow mixing with sleet, and then pure snow and white west of I-81. So the warnings in white, these are severe thunderstorms. These are winter storm warnings, and then these are your winter weather advisories, essentially up to I-95. And then we had flood watches earlier east of town, including southern Maryland and Prince George's County. Now we have lower Montgomery County, all of Fairfax, and all of Prince William County also under a flood watch. I tweeted this out. If you're a snow lover and you have a flood watch out, usually not a good thing. You kind of want to keep those separate if you want snow. So the old breadometer, again, you know, if you're in Hagerstown, it's going to be a 7. If you're in D.C., it's going to be a 0 or 1. We'll put it as a 3. We didn't use that last year at all with our 0.6 inches of snow. But the impact, so the breadometer is kind of how the storm ranks in meteorological history. This is how it ranks in terms of your history, how you'll remember it. And this is going to be a pretty significant storm. We're going to give it a 7. I mean, it's got potential for heavy snow and heavy rain and flooding. It kind of runs the gambit. The only thing that we mentioned earlier that I'm not too concerned about is icing. I don't think it's going to be a big icing thing. So snow, sleet develop before noon. Slick spots north and west, rain south and east, and it gets heavy very, very quickly. Don't get fooled. What I don't want you to do is run an errand at 11 o'clock in the morning and get stuck somewhere at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Heaviest snow, sleet, and rain noon to midnight. Best to be off the roads. Heaviest snow in the mountains, essentially west of I-81. I think the major roads inside the Beltway would just be wet. All right, so again, here are the models. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models focusing on DC. Pretty good. In fact, I mean, those are really pretty close. And I pretty much agree with that. I think it's going to be an inch or less at National Airport. But let's talk about Frederick. Models say as low as 7, as high as 12. We think because of that mixing, it's going to be closer to 6 to 8. We don't see the 12 there. If the cold air hung on, 12 would not be a problem. Leesburg, kind of the same problem. You know, we thought you were safe for a while. I mean, 4 inches to 8, still got a chance of a heavy snow. And technically for us, 4 inches is a heavy snow. But the mixing will get, I think, to Leesburg too and cut down on the totals as well. Less so is a problem in Hagerstown, as you might notice by this crazy 18 number. Probably a little extreme. RPM 6.7. I think that's a little bit low. I think we can, safely say we're looking at a comfortable maybe 8 to 10 in Hagerstown. And it could go to 12 inches. It could. Yeah. Melissa, any questions before I advance here? Well, okay, that's a question. What are the chances of getting a substantial storm for D.C. this year? Well, hopefully you saw our winter weather outlook. It's not statistically going to be a great winter, but it could always have that one big storm. And really, this would have been a really good one. This would have been the first snow of the season and a big one. There's a chance, but we're not looking at it like, La Nina winters are not great. The exception, as I pointed out in my outlook, was technically a La Nina winter, a weak one, in 95, 96. We had, I think, 67 inches of snow at Dulles. It's an outlier, but it's possible. So I'm saying we have a chance, but boy, we hate to miss these chances. Any more questions? Okay, all right. I'm going to do, what's that? Baltimore County. Okay, we can go to the, let's just go, okay, let's just go all the way here. Baltimore County is going to be kind of similar to, it's going to have several bands in it. Southern Baltimore, around Baltimore City proper, we don't see a bunch, but, here we go. So we've got Baltimore, essentially in the 3 to 6, but south of parts of Baltimore County will be actually technically in the trace to 1. But, northern Baltimore County, we have you in 3 to 6, and even in extreme northern Baltimore County, maybe as much as 6 to 12. So I think I'm going to wind down now if I can. A couple reminders. Please take a before and after pictures. We love them. So take a before tomorrow before it gets in. You'll have time, and maybe kind of frame it so it looks nice. Maybe a bench or something. I don't know. And then also maybe a street or neighborhood so we can see the roads. How bad are the roads? Pretty shot. Road shot, something like that. Tag us, WSA9, and of course hashtag WSA9 weather. And we will put them on the air for you. Again, I'm going to get new data in here shortly. That's why I'm kind of wrapping this up now. May change that at 11. We'll talk about that. But I think the takeaways here are, if you have to be out tomorrow, get home by 11. If you're in Culpeper, get home by 10. If you can't stay off the roads, even if it's not heavy snow, there's a ton of heavy rain coming. It's not fun driving in the rain. There's plenty of accidents in the rain, too. People always forget about that. Plenty of accidents in the rain, so it doesn't have to be snow. It can be treacherous in the rain, too. So that's probably a good takeaway for our friends in Southern Maryland. You won't get snow, but you're going to get hammered with some rain. So thanks to everybody for watching, and we will see you at 11 o'clock with perhaps a new snowfall map.